Good morning friends, welcome back to Panika Tutorials. In the last few videos, I have discussed about first come first serve scheduling algorithm and shortest job first scheduling algorithm. Those two scheduling algorithms are non-preemptive scheduling algorithms. I hope you have watched those two videos. If you did not watch those videos or if you don't know those concepts, I request you to go back and watch those videos and come back to this video. In this video, I want to discuss about shortest remaining time for scheduling algorithm, which is a preemptive scheduling algorithm. So I request everyone to watch the complete video for better understanding. First, let me discuss about what are the criteria and what is the mode. The criteria is burst time because it is called as shortest remaining time for scheduling algorithm. In the last video, we have discussed shortest job first scheduling algorithm. Even it also considers the criteria as burst time, but the mode was non-preemptive. In some competitive exams, to make you confused, instead of giving it as shortest remaining time for scheduling algorithm, they will give you as shortest job first scheduling algorithm plus preemptive. So even if they give you shortest job for scheduling algorithm with preemptive, which is equal to shortest remaining time for scheduling algorithm only. Is it clear? Now let me discuss why it is called as preemptive and why the criteria we are considering it as a burst time. Now we have 7 states in a process state diagram. They are new, ready, running, terminated, wait, suspended wait, and suspended ready. Out of those 7, let me use the ready state and running state to make you understand this scheduling algorithm. Let's assume that in process P1 needs 4 units of time, which is there in the ready state. At the same time, processor P2 also needs 3 units of time to complete its task. Then currently processor P3, which needs 5 units of burst time to complete its task. So there are two processes, P1, P2 are in the ready state and processor P3 is in the running state. Then what will happen is that if it is a non-preemptive scheduling algorithm, then processor P3 will complete its task and will go to the terminated state. Whereas this one is a preemptive scheduling algorithm. If it is a preemptive scheduling algorithm with a criteria as burst time, we need to look at the process which are there in the ready and running state burst times. Which one is having less, that will be start executing in the running state. So look at the processor P3, it needs 5 units of time. Processor P1 and P2 needs 4 and 3 units of burst time. So as compared to the processor P3, the processor P2, which is in the ready state, needs less amount of time to complete its task. Then what we will do is that we will do the context switching. We will shift the processor P3 into the ready queue, which he needs 5 units of time. Processor P2 will be shifted to the running state and it start executing its task. Is it clear? So that is the meaning of preemptive nature. Is it clear? I hope you have understood. If it is a non-preemptive, the CPU will not remove that processor until it's complete its task. Whereas in a preemptive, if any other processor which is there in the ready state with less burst time, then the processor which is running will be shifted to the ready state and the processor which is in the ready queue will be transferred to the running state. With this introduction, let me solve this question with the help of shortest remaining time for scheduling algorithm. If you want to solve any scheduling algorithm, we need to draw the Gantt chart. If we can draw the Gantt chart, then half of our question will be completed. Okay, always the Gantt chart will start from 0 units of time. Okay, now look at here. At 0 units of time, only processor P1, which requires 5 units of burst time. Okay, is it clear? Are you able to understand? I have considered 4 processes P1, P2, P3, P4, which have been arrived at 0, 1, 2 and 4 units of time, which requires 5, 3, 4, 2 service time or burst time to complete its their task. Okay, are you able to understand? Now At 0 units of time, processor P1 has been arrived. So there is no other processor in the ready state. So the processor P1 will be shifted to the running state. Are you able to understand? Then we will execute the process P1 for 1 unit of time. Then its remaining burst time is 4 units. Okay. By that time, if you look at processor P2 with 3 units of burst time has been arrived to the ready state. Now we will compare the burst time of processor P1 and P2. Among them, processor P2 has less burst time. So we will do the context switching. Then processor P2 will be shifted to the running state. Okay, then we will run the processor P2 for 1 unit of time. Its remaining burst time is 2 units of time. Is it clear? By that time, if you look at processor P3 has been arrived, okay, and its remaining burst time or its burst time is 4 units. Compare the processor P2, P1 and P3 burst time. Processor P2 has less burst time, so it can be permitted to run its task for 1 more unit of time. Is it clear? Are you able to understand? By that time, still processor P4 has not arrived. Only processor P3 and P1 is in the ready state, and processor P2 requires another 1 unit of burst time to complete its task. So among them, processor P2 has less burst time. It will be continued in the running state. So processor P2 has completed its task. Okay. So it will be shifted to the terminated state. By the time processor P4 has arrived to the ready state, it requires only 2 units of time. Now look at all the process burst time which are there in the ready state. P4, P3, P1. They require 2, 4, 4 units of burst time. Processor P4 have less burst time, so it will be shifted to the running state. Okay, so processor P4 we will run for 1 unit of time. Its remaining burst time, see this one is completed, you can highlight it. Okay, it needs another 4 units, this needs another 4 units, this needs only 2 units. Out of that, 1 unit of time is been completed, so its remaining burst time is 1. Again you can compare, processor P4 has less burst time. We will run it for 1 more unit of time. Then it has completed its task. Then it will go to the terminated state. Okay. Now two processors P1 and P3 are in the ready state. Now look at here. Both have the same burst time. So there is a tie. Then how this tie will be resolved? The tie will be resolved by looking at the arrival time. Look at the arrival time of processor P3. It has arrived at 2 units of time. Processor P1 has arrived at 0 units of time. So you need to look at the arrival time. Which came first? The processor P1 has came first. Then it will be given the high priority as compared to the P3. See, remember one thing. Whenever there is a tie with the burst time, we will look at the arrival time. Even let's assume that both the process have been arrived at the same time, then we will look at the processor ID. The processor which is having the lowest ID will be given the high priority. Is it clear? So processor P1 will be shifted to the running state. It needs 4 units of time. So we will run the processor P1 for 1 unit of time. It needs another 3 units of burst time, which is less as compared to the P3. So we can run the P1 for another 3 units of time. So you will run it for up to 10 units of time. See, I can write it as 8, 9, 10, but still the processor P1 will have the less burst time as compared to the P3. So this P1 will not be removed from the running state. So it will be run for 3 units of time. Then once it is done, it will go to the terminated state. Only processor P3 is in the ready state. It will be shifted to the running state and it will be given 4 units of time to complete its task. At 14 units of time, all the process P1, P2, P3, P4 have been completed its task. Is it clear? Are you able to understand? Now with this Gantt chart, we will find out the completion time, turnaround time, waiting time of all the process. First let me find out the completion time. Look at the processor P1 when it has completed its task at 10 units of time has completed its task. Processor P2 has completed its task at 4 units of time. Processor P3 has completed its task at 14 units of time. Okay, are you able to understand? Then processor P4 has completed its task at 6 units of time. Is it clear? Are you able to understand? Let me explain for you. Processor P1 has completed its task at 10 units. Is it clear? Processor P2 at 4, processor P3 at 14, processor P4 at 6 units of time. Once we got the completion time, we can easily compute the turnaround time. The turnaround time is equal to completion time minus arrival time. So look at the completion time and arrival time. 10 minus 0 is 10, 4 minus 1 is 3, 14 minus 2 is 12, 6 minus 4 is 2. Is it clear? Are you able to understand? Then we will compute the waiting time. The waiting time is equal to turnaround time minus burst time. Now turnaround time is 10 and burst time is 5. So 10 minus 5 is 5. 3 minus 3 is 0. 12 minus 4 is 8. 2 minus 2 is 0. Is it clear? Now let me compute the response time. Okay, if it is a non-preemptive scheduling algorithm, the response time will be equal to the waiting time. But however, it is a preemptive scheduling algorithm, the response time may vary with respect to the waiting time. Okay, now how can you compute the response time? First time when the processor P1 has been arrived, you have to subtract with the arrival time. See, look at here, processor P1 has entered to the running state first time at 0 units of time. This minus its arrival time, you subtract it. Okay, so 0 minus 0, you will get 0. Processor P2 has first entered into the running state at 1 unit of time and it has arrived at 1 unit of time. So 1 minus 1 is 0. Look at processor P2 is completed. Processor P3. Processor P3 has entered here only at 10 units of time. Are you able to understand it or not? But however, it has arrived at 2 units of time. It has entered into the running state at 10 units of time. But however, its arrival time is 2. So 10 minus 2 is 8. Are you able to understand it or not? Look at processor P4. Processor P4 first he entered to the running state at 4 units of time. Its arrival time is 4. So 4 minus 4 is 0. Look at the waiting time and response time of each processor. These three processes are same, but however this one is different. So I can say that for a non-preemptive scheduling algorithm, the waiting time will be equal to the response time. But when it comes to the preemptive scheduling algorithm, it will vary. Now, once we computed the turnaround time and waiting time, we need to compute the average turnaround time and average waiting time. These are the two parameters usually they will ask in competitive exams with respect to the scheduling algorithm. How can we compute the average turnaround time? We have to perform the sum of all the process turnaround time and you have to divide by the number of process. The turnaround time is 10 plus 3 is 13, 13 plus 12 is 25, 25 plus 2 is 27, 27 by 4 is the average turnaround time. Similarly, average waiting time is nothing but waiting time of each processor you have to perform the sum and divide by the number of processes. The waiting time sum will be 13 and the number of processes are 4. So 13 by 4 is the average waiting time. 27 by 4 is the average turnaround time for the given question. I hope you have understood how I solve this question. If you still have any doubts related to the shortest remaining time for scheduling algorithm, feel free to ask me in the comment section. In the next video, I will discuss few gate questions related to this scheduling algorithm because this is the one of the important scheduling algorithm coming to the competitive exams. I hope you have understood all the concepts. If you still have any doubts, feel free to ask me in the comment section. I will try to clear your doubts as early as possible. Thank you for watching the complete video. Have a nice day.